What's going on, guys? It's your boy Surf and Shank, and we're doing a special episode of Surf and Shank this week for a subscriber. A subscriber wrote to me and shared some things with me, and I have some insight about addiction. That's what this letter was about. So let me share the letter. He said, "Hey bro, I've been subbed to you for a while, and you seem to be on a similar wavelength as me as far as attitude and approach go. Basically, I'm 26, a waiter, and taking school slowly but surely." Good for you, by the way. My brother is 29 and is in and out of jail. He's addicted to heroin. I have a bit of a dependency on alcohol and even weed myself, if that's feasible. Basically, I have always just gave my brother the benefit of the doubt that he would find the will to quit, but after a near-death heroin overdose, the majority of his life in jail, and even the birth of his daughter to his now estranged ex-girlfriend, I'm beginning to lose hope. My family is not very confrontational, and we usually take the laugh together, cry alone approach, and don't really have a lot of heart-to-heart discussions. Don't get me wrong, we get along great and love each other, we just don't have many serious discussions. It has come to the point where I am happy to hear that he is locked up again, after one of his 1 to 3 month periods before he gets locked up again, because I see him before he goes in, and he looks like shit, like a gutter junkie. I know that my understanding of addiction does not encompass the black hole that is heroin. What should I be doing more to help him? He is the type that will avoid me at all costs and shame of seeing me if he knows I am on to him not being clean. I don't know what I'm asking, but if you have any advice for me, that would be great. I'm moving 7 hours north of San Francisco in a couple months for a year or so, and I have come to the realization that my brother is going to die in the next 10 years if he doesn't make a major change. Please reply with any insight, if not advice. Your videos are great, especially Overdose and your video series with Sean Shank. Well, thanks so much for that. And in fact, we chose, instead of me doing an individual response, we thought we would respond with both Sean and I, since you like the series. So,
absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I wanted to start by addressing what you mentioned about yourself with your issues with alcohol and weed. Myself, I have never had a real problem with alcohol, but I guess you could say I have had with weed. Sean, do you have anything to say about alcohol addiction?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's a major thing that, I deal with on a daily basis. My father was an alcoholic, and basically I'm an alcoholic. It's hard for me to say, because deep down I don't believe I am, but because I can stop for months on end and not have to drink. I did it for 6 months, a week, whenever. If I want to stop, I have the willpower to stop, and I drink because I enjoy it. But, I mean, deep down, I know I'm an alcoholic. My father was an alcoholic. His father was an alcoholic. And, I'm just hoping that my son doesn't have that trait. And I'm trying to lead him in the right direction. And, drinking socially is fine. But you just need to control yourself. And
so what makes you feel like you're an alcoholic?
It's because, I know I can stop at any time, but I always go back. I'm an addict, regardless of what it is. If I'm not drinking beer, then I overcompensate with water. If I'm not drinking water, then I'm drinking Monster. There's always something that I'm addicted to. It's mental with me. There's always something that I have to have. It's like, it just can't be a normal day. There's always something there. Like last week on Overdose, I didn't drink, but I drank water.
You mean the week before?
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
2 weeks
ago.
ago.
2 weeks ago, I didn't drink beer because the last time we did Surf and Shank, went a little bit overboard and drank a whole hell of a lot and felt like shit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to drink. And a lot of times it's hard for me to stop when I have beer sitting in the house. But I had a brand new case. I'd only drank 2 out of there, and that sat there for a full week. I didn't have a single drink for a week. And it was because I didn't want to. And I know in the back of my mind that, if I want to stop for a week or 6 months, I can. But I'm going to always go back to it. And that's the addiction. I'm always going to go back to it. I don't need it 24/7. I don't wake up in the morning saying, hey, you know what, I need a beer. I don't drink at night until after 7 o'clock. I don't come home from work and just start popping open a beer and pounding a case. But there are nights when I'll come home.
So you're what they would call a structured or functioning alcoholic.
I think I'm very functioning. Yeah, I would say I am more than a functioning alcoholic.
Drinking doesn't ruin your life.
No, it does not ruin my life. It doesn't really it doesn't interfere with anything I do. I've been times when I was younger, I'd go out and party and drink till 4 in the morning and get my ass up at 7 o'clock and still go to work. And I'd never let it interfere with my life. I never let it interfere with my time with my kids. I never let it interfere with my job. I don't miss work because I drank. I push through it because it's my stupidity. If I want to be out drinking till 4 o'clock in the morning, then I made the stupid decision, and guess what? I'm getting my ass up at 7 in the morning next day, or 6, whatever time I got to do and work.
Well, as the saying goes, if you can be a man at night, you got to be a man in the morning,
Exactly.
I think that that's too what makes it easy to keep justifying coming back to it, because I've always been like that with pot. You know, I think I deliberately steered away from alcohol more because, like Sean, my parents were alcoholics. Same thing, functioning though. But I saw the destruction it did in their marriage, and so I know for me, like, when I first started drinking, I don't have a huge tolerance, but if I'm drinking every night for like a week, it's like by the end of that week, I'm like a 15 beer guy, you know, which is, just for me, I don't like how I feel the next day. With weed, it was always really justifiable because I could function, I could go about my normal day, and, you know, I never felt like it really changed me all that much. It relaxed me. I was always a really anxious person and like right on the edge of stuff because I have the type of mind that's always thinking, always doing stuff, and if I'm not busy being creative or have something else that's draining my energy in a positive way, my brain goes to that sort of thing. So, but I, like you, do the same thing where like I'll deliberately stop smoking weed for a month, 2 months, 6 months. You know, it varies. But I like to know that I still have some degree of control over it by intentionally stopping. Do you feel like that makes it different for you than it was for your parents or other people?
I think it does, because like my dad wasn't a functioning alcoholic. My dad had lost plenty of jobs. He had 3 DUIs. My parents' marriage, as yours, was awful. I mean, my parents shouldn't have been married. Seriously.
As my parents' marriage was awful. My actual marriage.
No, not his.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, just to clarify. Not Surf's marriage, but I mean, it was. I mean, my dad was just an alcoholic. I mean, when he wasn't working, he would wake up and drink. He would drink anything. I mean, he's the kind of alcoholic that if there was wine, if there was beer, I mean, if it had alcohol in it, guess what? It was going down his throat, and it was simple as that. He wasn't a functioning alcoholic, and I saw that. And honestly, when I didn't start drinking until I was 23. You know, I went through, my teenage years. You know, we go to parties, all my buddies would drink and smoke weed, and I've never, to this day, I'm going to be 40 in a couple of weeks, I've never taken a puff of a cigarette, I've never smoked weed. The only illegal drug I've ever did was ecstasy one time.
Which you got from me.
Yes, which I did.
Which I don't do those sort of things anymore. But so kind of in reply to what you're going through with, you feel like you have a dependency on alcohol and weed. I think the thing that most of us, if not everyone, shares in common when you do keep coming back to that is what they would call the addict's personality. And I used to be such a believer in this that I use it as a reason to not stop the hard shit, the really bad shit that I was doing for a while. But at some point, you have to make that call where you're like, hey, am I going to live my life, the rest of my life like this? You know, I mean, I think that even just us talking about this sort of even brings us into a realm of like accountability where it's like, well, shit, we're talking about it like, there's things in our lives that everyone has that can be leaned on as a crutch. But I think before you can help anyone else, you have to have that shit in order in your own life, at least to the point where you feel like you don't need it. So, I guess, I don't know, that's our first suggestion, right?
The first suggestion is you got to take care of yourself because, regardless, if you are an addict, then you're an addict. It's the fact of dealing with it. So, the fact is when you learn to deal with it, then you'll learn to deal with others.
And
go ahead.
Right. No. I was just going to say in my last commentary, I mentioned just being aware of something gives you power, and it does, because it gives you access to change it, And that's a really big, important thing. It's just... it sounds so generic, but just admitting that you have a problem, like that's totally it. And like in the case with your brother, when it gets into stuff like heroin, it's crazy because the physical dependency is on such another level, and I'm sure most people who know anything about heroin know that. But it's just an abyss. It just is, and the more that you live like that, the more you believe that you have to have it, and that I mean, I'm not rewriting any philosophical books here. Everyone knows this sort of information, but that's the hardest part is understanding and grasping that. And so I feel like, genuinely, in your situation with your brother, it sounds funny, but I've seen stuff like the interventions. I've had friends that have gone through it. I've even had many interventions in my life with friends or family, just about, and not necessarily drug related, but just shit. And I felt abandoned at those times. And I feel like other people feel like that sometimes too. Now, sometimes the logic behind that is they need to feel that in order to come back. Sometimes it makes it worse, and sometimes they die before they get better. And I know that's really gruesome, but me personally, how I handle stuff like that now, if I have friends that are in trouble or any type of circumstance like that, where they're doing something bad for themselves that they shouldn't be, instead of completely disassociating myself with them, I do what I call the dog approach. It sounds funny, but before Surf Dub, this channel was almost called Dog Son, because I've had this asphyxiation with dogs' mentalities for a really long time. Like, a dog can be a friend with a heroin addict, a homeless person, a rock star, a successful person. It doesn't matter. they are able to give compassion without supporting your shitty habits. You know, for instance, my dog Charlie would give me love regardless of how I'm behaving, what I'm doing in my life. However, he's at the same time not like help me out with a heroin habit or something. You know, not only because he can't, but it's, I don't know what I'm getting at. It's sort of the nature of that energy. You can have compassion for someone non-biasly and not support what they're doing. In fact, if your family is the type of family that, as you said, you know, laughs together, cries alone, you can't change anyone else, but you can control you. And if you want to be a more direct person towards everyone in your family, you can begin to do that now. You know, you absolutely have that power to just state your feelings, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's still a sign that that you're in touch with what's going on inside, you know, and that's more important than feeling like you're going to look funny in front of your family, or that they're not going to accept it, or they're going to reject it. They may reject that sort of thing, but you just have to decide for you how important it is to be honest about what you guys are really feeling, because it's never done anyone any favors in the history of families or relationships to not express. You know, I would rather overexpress what's going on in a situation, be able to talk and work through it, than be not knowing what's going on because there's barriers in communication. So while you can't change your family, you can at least begin to change how you are in the family. And being more honest about what's going on with your brother, to him, to your parents, to whatever, your siblings, friends, like, that's all okay. And you can do that while still being compassionate and letting him know, hey, I know what's going on, you know, and being blunt. Hey, you know, you're going to kill yourself if you continue to do this. However, I want to spend as much time with you that I can while I can, because I don't know how long you're going to be along, that you're going to be around. You know, and maybe that sort of thing, that sort of compassion can slowly whittle away at them.
My whole point is that you got to be there for them, and you got to support them, and let them know you know, and don't be afraid to stand up and, you know, say something to them. You know, like, I've never dealt with the heroin or anything else, but an addiction is an addiction, and it's just you got to be there for the ones you love. And, you know, your brother's got a daughter, and, you know, if anything ends up bad happening to him, I mean, she's the one that suffers the rest of her life without having a father. And, you know, him being your brother and, you know, that being your niece, I mean, you want the best for both of them. And you just have to hold your ground. I mean, when he avoids you, you know, keep pushing, keep pressuring. He needs to feel that. And, you know, if he ends up in jail, one day, you know, hopefully before anything bad happens, it clicks to him. And he's like, damn, you just got to keep, I mean, I believe you just have to keep pointing out the obvious and all the good things, you know, that, you know, are going on in life. That he doesn't need to be going to jail, doesn't need to depend on something. It's going to be rough, but it's the fact is, you know, he's got things going for him. So, I mean, he's got a beautiful daughter, and, you know, that's, honestly, that needs to take priority over anything. When you bring someone else into this world, you know, that looks up to you and relies on you and just basically expects you to guide them through their life, you know, down the right path and pull them, you know, when they're going down the wrong, I mean, you need to take a step back and reevaluate yourself and say, hey, you know what, I have other responsibilities. There's other things and people in this world that are more important than me and what I'm dealing with.
Keep trying to whittle them down by being there for them, pressuring them, and don't feel bad about pressuring them to see you and to get clean and all these things, because he's not doing any favors for anyone else doing what he's doing, and you're trying to do something positive. So don't ever feel bad about inconveniencing him because you're vocalizing or trying to get something out of him that's ultimately a positive thing.
You're going to be gone for a while. Take this time now and spend every moment you can with him and see what you can do. And take that minute and, you know, just try to drive it home. You know, it may not happen, but, I mean, at least you're trying. I mean, that's the point. If you don't try, then you feel like shit if something does happen.
Exactly. Recognize that you can only do you, and while doing that, you can still spread some compassion and love to your brother, and who gives a fuck who says anything about it, you know?
Exactly. Compassion. I mean, I think that's the big thing. You just be compassionate for him.
All right. Well, we hope that this helped you a little bit. We're sorry that, you know, we're not the best experts, you know, but we know what it's like, man. So, all right. Good luck. You know, keep me posted if things develop with your brother, and we'll catch you guys all in the next episode of Surf and Shake.
Peace.
Peace.